Okay, good afternoon, everybody. I want to welcome you to our Public Utilities Workshop for the Board of County Commissioners. It is March 28th, and I'm calling the meeting to order. I do want to read something into the record, a memo. Please be, from Commissioner Victor Chris, please be advised I'll be late to the Public Utilities Workshop meeting on March 28th, 2018, due to an unavoidable family matter. Please read the reason for my tardiness into the record. Thank you very much. And Mike Merrill, you can take over the agenda.
All right, this is Public Utilities Workshop, and it's really just a report on the state of the public utility system, which is very good financially, state-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art plants, competitive rates. And so I'll turn it over to Lucia to sort of introduce this and take you down the path. There's no particular direction needed today. However, we're always open to where you want to go. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lucia.
Thank you, Commissioners. Today we're going to talk about the utility system, water, wastewater, reclaimed water. You have 4 water plants and 7 wastewater plants. We are in the process right now of undertaking a utility master plan, looking at what our future needs are, particularly as population grows in South County, how we accommodate some of those issues. What you will hear from George today are about some of the innovative initiatives that are underway and what we have been doing. There are other issues that at some point we'll be talking about that deal with cost of growth issues, evaluation of capacity or impact fees, and how they deal with the land use components that we've been discussing. But those we'll bring back in a different format as we talk about land use and cost of growth. So that with that short highlight and opening remark, I'll turn it over to George Cassady to take you through the PowerPoint.
George, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. George Cassady, Public Utilities, and thank you for this opportunity to just do an overview of where we are in our public utilities as a business and where we're going as an organization and a business unit moving forward. We're calling this our Public Utilities Program and Financial Forecast. So just a quick overview of our core services. You know, it's pretty basic. We provide drinking water, we collect and treat wastewater, and we redistribute that treated water back to the community and to some commercial businesses in the form of reclaimed water for either irrigation or for cooling water purposes. Guiding principles. What are our marching orders? And so a number of years ago, the board established our guiding principles for the utility, and that is that we need to operate the utility in a financially responsible manner. And so we look at our creditworthiness. How are we doing from a business? Are we doing things to be sustainable? And are we maximizing the use of our existing capacity? Fairness of rates and revenues. So it doesn't make sense to price yourself out of the market. So we want to make sure that in our operation, our rates are equitable for our customers. And then future customers. You know, this is the old mantra, growth pays for growth. And that is one of the marching orders that we have. Looking at our financial integrity, I think we are very proud of our financial status. We recently received yet another AAA rating. So we've got AAA ratings from Moody's and from Fitch. What does that mean? Well, that means that we are in the top 4 or 5% utilities across the country. We have done that well in maintaining our financial balance. Sustainability. You know, we're talking about asset renewal. We are a big utility. You have a big utility. We are the 4th largest utility in the state, the 50th largest in the country. We have about $1.6 billion in assets. It takes a lot of energy to keep those assets in good operating order to make sure that we're doing the responsible thing for our customers and the environment. Fairness of rates and revenues. Where do we fall in the area with regard to our utility rate structure? Well, you'll see that we're right below the average of those communities listed. Those are many of the local utilities, local municipalities, cities and counties. We've also added a couple from farther south. And in all cases, I think we can make a statement that we are very competitive providing water and wastewater services. Our customer growth, we're a growth utility. Not only are we managing infrastructure from existing customers, but we're also taking on additional infrastructure from the growth in portions of our county, namely the south portion of the county. And you can see by this graph, over the last 4 years, we've gone from about 165,000 customer accounts to 185,000 customer accounts. Well, thank you. So what are we engaged in right now? And we've titled this our utility business, but really this is a focus on some of the initiatives that we've undertaken over the last couple of years. We've bought some franchise utilities, utilities where their customers were not necessarily happy with the services they were receiving. We've taken those utilities over, and in all cases I can tell you that the customers are really, really happy to now be Hillsborough County customers. The Palm River Water System extension. We've extended water to a community that was on very, very poor water quality wells. The first phase of this construction effort is about 450 customers. We're almost completing that first phase, and we will do so in the next 3 to 6 months. The second phase will add an additional 270 customers. Yay. Commissioner Miller has been a champion of this project, and we're almost at the finish line, Commissioner. Septic to sewer conversion. So this is something that comes up. We recognize that we have a significant number of septic tank communities in our service area. In fact, you'd be pretty surprised at the number. We've got as many as 40,000 septic tank homes in the urban service area. We've started a pilot project, our first project, to convert a waterfront community, 35, 36 homes, going to convert that to our gravity sewer system or to our sewer system. And we want that to be the launching point for where we go from here. There are some policy decisions that we're going to have to wrestle with down the road because it is a very costly project, a very costly program. Another one is on the horizon is BP funding. We have potentially been selected again, in the Palm River community to sewer that community. There's about 1,000 connections. We might see some funds roll in if all things move forward like we hope in the next 4 to 5 years. So within the next 5 to 7, we may see some progress towards sewering the Palm River community. And then lastly, we mentioned it before, our utility system growth. We're adding between 500 and 600 new accounts per month. That's growth in the south portion of the county predominantly. This has been going on for a number of years. We know that it's going to continue. There's no foreseeable slowdown to the customer growth. And so we're doing the responsible thing. Lucia mentioned our master plans. We last updated our master plan in 2014. We're currently engaged in revising those estimates, refreshing those measures to see where we need to focus our future expansion focus to. So we've got demands on the system. We've got where we're focused on providing services, maintaining those services, improving services to the community and our customers. And then to balance that, we have to be mindful of cost, right? We just can't keep on spending money. We have to find ways to be more innovative and be more efficient. And Mr. Merrill has really challenged us to look for ways to be better at what we do, be more efficient at what we do, and ultimately derive a high cost or low cost of services to our customers. And so one of those is our Northwest Wastewater Consolidation Project. We've, and I'll talk a little bit more about these in a couple slides. Biosolids composting, alternative energy, being sustainable, being able to reduce our footprint. AMR, which is automatic meter reading. That's technology that has made some great progress in the last couple of years. And our CORE program, which stands for Cooking Oil Recycling. Our Northwest project, you know, this is the single largest capital improvement program project that the Utilities Department has ever undertaken. And essentially it takes 2 older facilities, it retires them, it expands the remaining one, taking advantage of an efficiency, an economy of scale. You're doing it all in one location instead of 3. the driver behind this really and truly is that it saves $80 million over the next 20 years of operating, which is a huge incentive for us. Our biosolids composting, we are really excited about this. We've taken what has traditionally been a waste product, a byproduct of the treatment plant process, which we've taken to landfills. We've had a difficult time over the years being able to handle this product. There are really limited options. And also, we've partnered with our solid waste department, Public Works. We've gotten together and looked at their problems with disposing of yard wastes. And we've come up with a program where we're combining yard waste, biosolids. We're making a compost product. The end product looks like a dirt. It's a soil amendment. It's been hugely successful in the pilot stages, so much so that we're looking at expanding it to all of our facilities, and again, reducing the cost of operations. We're looking at being able to reduce our cost of biosolids handling by $1 million per year. We just recently installed a pilot solar array at our water treatment plant. And that was a 100 kW solar installation at our Fawn Ridge plant. You know, we spend nearly $8 million a year on electricity with TECO. That's a huge bill that we have to pay. And so again, sustainability, looking at how we can reduce our footprint, reduce our needs from some of these big high costs of services. So the solar option looks like it's going to be a really, really attractive option for us. We're also kind of looking at preparing for a potential 1 megawatt installation at the Valrico wastewater treatment plant. That would probably take about 50% of all the electrical usage at the Valrico plant. Automatic meter reading. So traditionally, this has been really expensive technology. And for us, because we're so spread out and because it didn't necessarily make sense for us to jump into it, we've held back. We've just installed a pilot down in South County, and it's had some pretty eye-opening results. Again, it's the right technology in the right location, leveraging the right kind of benefits. In this particular project, there's a little over 500 meters. It would take our meter reader getting out of the car, walking around, collecting the meter information, 6, maybe 7 hours. It's a full day's work. We were able to do that in 5 minutes with a drive around. Again, this is a meter that has a short-range broadcast signal. You drive through the neighborhood, you never get out of the car. What you see in that particular slide on the left-hand side is a customer's use. That's their use pattern, and we're creatures of habit. So you see the spikes, that's probably when they're irrigating. You see the broad areas on the bottom of the graph, that's probably either getting up in the morning or getting ready to go to bed, cooking, bathing at night. If there's a problem with the customer's bill in any way, shape, or form, we can pull that up in this particular location, and we can walk through their usage and help diagnose maybe what could have happened. We think it's going to be a big plus for us going down the line here. Our core program. So, you know, we respond in our gravity system to clogs and blockages and overflows as a result. Cooking oil and grease, bacon grease, it's analogous to your body. If you're not eating healthy, your veins can clog up. If you're not treating the gravity system correctly, it can clog up as well. We've traditionally gone and tried to inspect the sewer system, look for blockages in advance so we could prevent the overflows from occurring when we see blockages. But you know what? It was more important to go back to the source. How about educating the community? How about getting some messaging out to say there's a better place to put your cooking oil than down the drain? And so we began our core program several years ago. It's been highly successful. We collected 9,000 gallons this past year. And believe it or not, we've reduced in 2017 the number of overflows from approximately 40 down to less than 10. What does that mean? That means protecting health and safety of our public. It means that we don't have to send crews out for cleanup work. It's a great program. It's going to help us do what we do better. This is a bragging moment. This is just purely a bragging moment. I want you to know that over the last 4 years, the department has been recognized nearly 40 times by state regulatory agencies and professional associations for the work that we're undertaking, the work that we do. And between challenges with initiating new programs, efficiencies, you've got a very strong, very capable workforce in your utility. So what is the forecast moving forward? Where are we going? What's down the road? What we have right now is the current business plan, if you will. This is our current rate structure, our current indexing program, our current expected increases in cost. And boiling this slide down, what you're seeing in green over the next 5 years is increasing costs. Those increasing costs are coming from the programs that we've undertaken, just the day-to-day business that we're engaged in. The blue bar, which is a declining bar, shows the available money that's left over after we make all those operating expenses. That's money that we're going to be using to pay for our asset renewal. The dashed line is the target for our asset renewal, which is about $57 million. So you can see over the next 5 years, if nothing changes in our current business model, we have increasing costs and declining revenues available for asset renewal. You know, this was just a quick overview. We wanted you to know that we're operating the utility in a fiscally responsible manner. We believe we've got competitive rates in the community, as shown by the fact that our rates are somewhat less than the average across the Bay Area. We've got challenges with new programs that we've undertaken, whether it's septic to sewer conversion, extending our water and wastewater system in areas where it presently doesn't exist, franchise acquisition, and just pure growth in certain portions of our community. We need to be focused on asset renewal. We need to be focused on maintaining our assets at a high operating level. I'll remind you that during Hurricane Irma, we never lost water service to our customers. We have redundancy, we have backup, we have resiliency, and we want to maintain that. We don't want to be the one that someone's pointing to that had a significant consequence because of a storm or other event because we didn't manage it well. You know, going forward, our current indexing system isn't quite keeping pace with costs increased in our system, and I think we're going to recommend ultimately that we look at modifying that index somewhat to be able to keep pace better with the growing costs. At the end of the day, we want there to be minimal impact to our customers and a seamless operation. And that concludes my overview.
Thank you. Very thorough presentation. I appreciate it. Commissioner Hagan, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of quick comments. Just want to say, George, very much appreciate you operating the utility like a business, you know, identifying efficiencies, minimizing operating expenses, and being financially responsible. I also appreciate the number of acquisitions we've made. I know some of the folks in Lutz and Calm Harbor are very appreciative of us taking over their utility there. So,
thank you, Commissioner.
Appreciate that very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Hagan. Any other comments by commissioners? Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you. I was awed. It was an incredible presentation. I thought it was really interesting to learn all that and understand it better. Just in terms of the increasing cost of the system, because you really outlined many what looks like savings in terms of solar, renewable, you know, making sure that cooking oil and others don't go down the pipes. But you did outline that, you know, we have increasing costs. So are those increasing costs a result of more customer service? What is causing the increase? Simply the number of people being added to the system?
That's a component of it, and certainly there are other drivers. Just the pure cost of operations. We have salary increases every year. We have the cost of new customers coming online that we have to service and maintain. When we bring those new customers on, there's a growth in how much water we're treating, how much water we're sending out. So it's just it's a little bit of everything. Just the growth component by itself is a part, but there are also some other pressures.
Is there a way to quantify what are the big increases? And I also because you put the operations there in the blue, essentially, and talked about index. I mean, that looks like operations and asset, kind of like when you put a pipe in, we got to think about 50 years out till we get the money to replace that pipe or whatever it is. So, I mean,
correct.
I'm assuming that's what the blue is.
Yes, ma'am.
So it's both operations and
So we've got-
system preservation.
Yes, ma'am. We've got brand new infrastructure, and obviously it's like the brand new car. You know, there's not much maintenance attendant to the brand new thing. But as a balance to the brand new infrastructure, we've got some aged infrastructure. There's infrastructure that is 75 years old, and so that is the focus. Certainly, bringing that in, keeping that in good operating order.
So I took you off the original question I asked. Is there places where bigger savings could be had rather than, are there places where we're seeing big increases? What are the bigger drivers?
I have that information, and I can forward that to you. There are if you looked at all of our operating expenses, whether it's personnel, whether it's electric, whether it's purchased water from Tampa Bay Water, all these various components that build our budget, some of those are growing at a higher rate than others, and I can share that with you.
And, you know, I guess I should wait until we do or I see the water master plan, which I know I have time set up with you to go over that, so I'll just wait until I kind of look that over
Okay.
more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner White. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Commissioner Miller is next in the queue. You're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you for such a great presentation of where we are and what's going on. Part of the question that Commissioner Kemp asked, thank you for answering that. Part of the equation of costing more is that the growth in this county and more customers coming online. Excuse me. I also know that we had to spend some dollars when we took over some utilities because they were not up to par utilities at a particular point in time. So to get those utilities back up to par after we bought them, we had to spend some dollars there. And I want to thank you for all the work you've done in Palm River. I know that the people are happy that you're coming there, but they're still upset because they want to get it as soon as possible. That's what you told me. I think we had a
Yes, sir.
conversation the other day. But to meet our needs, you recommending that we're going to have a moderate incremental approach through rate indexing. Could you go into a little bit more detail of what that's going to entail, of how do we do that?
Absolutely. So our current index, if I were to simplify it, we take our operating expenses less the water that we buy from Tampa Bay Water. No, by the way, we purchase about $60 million worth of water from them annually. So we take all of our operating expenses, subtract the water pass-through amount, we multiply that by basically the CPI, the Consumer Price Index. And based on that value, that's what we add to the budget for the following year. So that's additional revenue. We increase our rates by amount to recover that amount. So we're keeping the idea, the vision was to keep track with inflation on our operating side. So when the index was first approved by the board in 2009, and we've done it every year since 2009, because we're extracting that that pass-through charge, we've not fully recovered all of the inflationary components of our operating expenses. As an example, if the consumer price index was 2.1% and we applied 2.1% or some number to a smaller budget amount, we're not going to recover fully 2.1%. It's a smaller portion. Our index.
Why don't you
Oh,
put
we'll
that,
put it up?
up,
Okay.
yeah, where you're passing out the.
Right. She's passing out the information.
You get back to the. Go down to the bottom.
There we are.
Bottom. There we go. All right, so it should be up now. So since 2009, the resulting index that we basically trigger every June has been between 0.75% and 1%. Last year, that meant about 53 cents additional to the monthly bill for a customer that would typically use about 6,000 gallons per month. So it's been a moderate relatively low impact. It's been every year. It's helped us out. Because of some of these other pressures on our revenue, quite frankly, that's 3/4 to 1% hasn't covered everything, and still allow us to continue our asset renewal program. So that's why you see that blue bar declining, because there's less and less money available after we meet our operating expenses.
And there haven't been any other rate increases, so we've been...
Not since 2000.
Right, so, but for George's ability to find ways to be more efficient, reduce cost, we would have had to raise rates, but we've managed to keep rates low for a number of years and live off of the relatively small index, which is 53 cents a month. And so that's really, that combined with other just natural cost increases for, people, for materials, is really now what's putting the squeeze on us.
Well, that could be really scary. I mean, you're doing a great job. I mean, you're pitching pennies here, your bare bones budget. But the scary part is that, one, this county is going to grow. We're going to have new infrastructure. But at the same time, you just said that some of our infrastructure is 75 years old. And we all remember the horrible sights that we saw in Los Angeles when they had some problems and they had flooding all over the place with water. And the city of Tampa is doing that. What, and some of us may be gone by this time. I'm looking at 20, 30 years out, that we're going to have some real serious problems. What are we planning on? What are we looking at to meet those two needs? One, this county grows, and we have to get a new system to those people as this county grows. And number two, some of them are sitting on top of a system that's 75 years old that could be a major problem.
Well, I think there's a couple things there, Commissioner. I think, number one, we're engaged in our master plan right now. We're looking at where those real growth pressures are going to be and continue to be in the south part of the county. So I think that's going to really help us make some educated decisions on what we need to do to address growth. The other side is we are prioritizing our asset renewal, our rehab work, our R&R work, and we're making sure that we're keeping everything as good as we can. It's not something that we feel we're in real trouble with right now, but we need to be looking down the road and preparing ourselves, because there will be a time when we're behind.
Last question, Madam Chair. Looking down the road, is there a strong inclination that we're going to have a rate increase to meet these needs?
Yeah, and the question is when. And so, for example, one way to mitigate that would be the revised index that's shown on the screen, which allows us to capture more cost increases and build them into the index. Now will help mitigate future rate increases. And so, we're going from an estimated 53 cents a month in our index to $1.75 a month, which is still a very small increase. It's an index. It happens every year automatically. And so, for example, if we instituted that new index this year rather than waiting, that would help us keep that future big rate increase away from us for a while. But so there's one other feature to this that's important. During the recession, this goes back a few years, we eliminated a fee, the accrued guaranteed revenue fee, which was instituted back in 1995 when the system was having financial trouble. We did that because we wanted our economy to be vibrant during the recession, and we wanted to keep it going. But that was a major revenue for us in helping pay for future plant expansions, paying for other operating, paying for asset renewal. So that kind of gives you an idea of what a great job George has done to cut costs and be efficient. So we didn't increase monthly rates.
We're excited. We're celebrating our annual Black History Celebration.
We are excited.
We have senior.
We're excited for rate increases for George.
You're banned from the podium, George. Well, we're done here. Thank you.
from all over Hillsborough County who are coming here. You're going to see seniors.
Anybody up in the
like you've
control
seen them
room?
Never before. They're going to hit this dance floor. They're going to be so excited.
These
that
are the
you're gonna
crazy
say, "Wait a
commercials
minute,
they've been
are
doing.
these seniors?
They're actually
I
really
can't
fun.
believe it."
Is
So
this
we want you
cyber,
to hold on, hold tight, be ready, because they're excited
Hacking?
about our Black Heritage celebration.
Somebody's hacked into our system.
Hang on.
Russia.
Anyway,
Sorry about that.
that was fun. That was good. They're still there. Terry? Anybody? So anyway, so we haven't raised monthly rates for years. We gave up a major revenue during the recession to help our economy. Despite that, through innovations and cost reduction, the only thing that we've done is a 53-cent a month index. That's why, at a certain point, we're going to have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
So, as I said, the sooner we can increase the index, that will help delay a rate increase. Capacity fees haven't been raised in years. We might want to think about bringing back the accrued guaranteed revenue fees. There are other options here, which I wouldn't recommend, except for the fact that, you know, George, we have been very, very frugal and innovative in keeping costs down. And you can't squeeze much more blood from this turnip as it continues to grow. So, yes, the question is when will that occur? That's what's going to come out of the master planning is a very rigorous analysis of when that will happen, why it'll happen, what are the options, are there other costs we can decrease, you know, what are the other choices that the board has, that we have. So.
Well, let me say you've done a masterful job in doing what we're doing here. But it's quite evident that sooner or later we're going to have to do something much more than these indexing that's going on, because to meet the needs of a growing county and an aging system per se, we're going to have to do something. It's going to happen.
Right.
Thank you.
I think, are they still, where, he didn't know anything about, is,
Got indigestion, George?
where it is. Oh, there he is. Is it, they still having problems? They're working on it. Okay, they're working on it. Okay, Commissioner White, good luck. You're recognized.
Thank you. George, thank you for running your utility in such a fiscally conservative manner. We really do appreciate that. I have a question. Is there an impact fee that's charged to help with your infrastructure needs?
So every new home, every new commercial establishment that's built, there is an impact fee based on the size of, well, it's a one-time fee or not one-time fee. It's a set fee for single-family residences. It moves, of course, depending on how big or the square footage of a commercial establishment.
But by definition, though, if it's an impact fee, it is a one-time fee.
That's correct.
As you said. When's the last time that's been adjusted?
1998.
Okay. I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Hagan that we should be running this utility like a business. And I would challenge any member of this board or staff or members of the audience to give me an example of where you can go and procure a good or service at the same fee that you could in 1998. So I don't want to get labeled as Mr. Fee here, but we really have to take a hard look at indexing, and I'll say indexing in quotes of these fees. I know sometimes that just has to be done manually because we're not allowed to just have automatic indexing in some of these cases, but we're talking about a fee that hasn't been touched in 20 years. So I'd like to ask staff to take a look at that. If I need to schedule it for a regular business meeting of the BOCC and ask for a study, I'm happy to do so. But, we really need to look at that as well, particularly for our infrastructure needs for an ever-growing South and East Hillsborough in particular.
I believe that we're going to direct staff to, that will be maybe one thing, part of the package that we direct you to look at, as well as coming back with more information on the indexing.
I think it's more information on the indexing, but the capacity fee will go hand in hand with the master planning. So that will give us a sense of what the needs are and then how we distribute cost and what the appropriate way is to do that. And as Mike said, the accrued guaranteed revenue fee that was eliminated when the economy was in a slump also can be reassessed at that point too. But it's based on the master plan and the growing needs.
Right. I was going to tell you to look at, did you, the impact fee and the AGRF. I think that both of those need to be looked at as part of the package that you bring back to us. Recommend. Commissioner Kemp, you're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you for Commissioner White for raising that point. And of course, I think that is a very valid and important point. And I also wonder, and I started to ask this, but as I said before, I hadn't really gotten a briefing on. I've really wanted to understand the master plan a little better, but just like we do for roads or we do for certain areas, when infrastructure has to extend so far, it's far more costly. And it seems to me that we have a kind of system devised for that for roads, pipes and roads. Those are the things. And that we should be looking too at a relative kind of analysis on true impacts. And I don't know if other places do that, but in terms of the length and system that has to be deployed as a relative judgment on the impact fee.
And it parallels what this board did with mobility fees. That was a similar kind of assessment that was done about the cost of growing and where it's growing and what it's costing to actually construct the capacity. So that we will be bringing that back, Commissioner.
And I have to say, too, I have grave concerns about any kind of, I don't see where we should be extending outside the urban service area and putting resources out there, just as I've said with other things, and it's particularly when our needs are so great within the urban service area already. The number of people that aren't, that are still on septic within the urban service area, and I don't know also the asset preservation needs we have inside the urban service area. I would think it'd be greater than anywhere else since they're older and were built longer in the past, and also as we try, I would hope, to do infill and densify those areas, those needs might grow too. So I think it's really important to be looking, I'm sure you are, but just in terms of also making those kinds of choices be reflected in the kind of rates that are charged.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'll just wrap up with a couple of comments. When you guys did your briefing with me, I said you should set up the fee based on what we did, exactly like what we did on the mobility fee. And it could mirror that in so many ways, because we actually went through a very long process on that, but I thought we came out really good in the end. And if we could do something, I want to ask, how much would the annual index, the projected annual index percentage increase if you included, these dramatic capacity increases that we've been talking about? I mean, because this doesn't take care of everything, the indexing.
So the indexing would be applied to the rate, and the rate is then pays for the operation as well as the asset renewal and the rehabilitation of the old projects. The new projects, the new plants that need to be built, for example, would be paid for by the capacity fee. So that the one-time fee would be applied, would be used for building plants and new facilities.
But if you just included what we needed for capacity, couldn't we just index at a higher rate?
The capacity fee could then be, yes, once we study it, we could index the capacity fee much like we do the mobility fee.
Okay, that's what I was getting at, and that's what I wanted you to say. One of my big interest levels, as you know, is people on septic tanks throughout. You knew I would bring this up. And making it available to customers that want to transfer over to our sewer system. And I know we're working in Palm River, but we have quite a few other communities that really need improvement. Gibsonton is one of them. That really, I mean, they're in the same situation almost as Palm River is, though I don't think they're as big. But I just wondered if there's any, possibility of expanding the pilot project to include other areas that could really, we could help out.
So the one pilot project, George, was in Bayport?
It's in Rocky Creek.
Rocky Creek.
Right.
And one of the issues that we face as we go into the conversion is ensuring that there are the connections then to the water wastewater system. So that raises a question about the connection policy. And in this particular case, we worked with the community and were able to ensure that once we put the lines in, everyone would connect. So just looking at what those connection options are, whether it's incentivized or such, but where we don't want to be is to run a new line and not have anyone connect to it. So making those linkages and working with communities to do that, but certainly happy to look at Gibsonton and kind of scope out what those next communities might be.
Well, it's obviously a redevelopment area. So I would say if we were going to do a project like this and we know what the cost is, maybe it's a P3 if somebody's going to wants to redevelop the area and can help pay for some of the costs. But I do think, and also the individual homeowners that are on septics, if we can also include something in the package that might incentivize them to move over to our system and help get them off of septic going forward.
As part of the master planning, I think we will be looking at where there are existing lines and septic tanks to see if we can begin to at least eliminate those conflicts and bring those homeowners online.
Absolutely. It's really important, especially for us in South County and East, where we have quite a few of these areas that developers will be looking at for redevelopment, and we might as well include them in the mix. But I just want to say you did such a thorough job on this.
Thank you.
And I always, my whole philosophy is water is the necessity of life, and without it, nothing else exists. So what you're doing is you're providing a valuable service to our constituents, and I know I appreciate it. Your cost-saving measures are wonderful, and I just say keep up the good work. And I'm also hopeful that SHARP will be, a project that we can talk about down the road of being included somewhere in this plan moving forward, being able to provide water, especially in some areas where we haven't been able to.
Great.
So Commissioner Christ, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just briefly, I know that over 30 years ago, when my one little enclave in the county just adjacent to Temple Terrace finally received water and sewer, the incentive there for us on that street to connect was the fact that the county allowed us to amortize out over time the cost of that connection. And when I sold my home, that was a negotiated point with the purchaser. They didn't want to take it, so I had to pay it at the time of the closing. But, it could have been different if I wasn't able to do that. I'm sure it could have been worked out. But that's an option. Also, when you came in and you did your presentation in my office, I was impressed. And I know I missed the first part of your presentation here, unfortunately, due to a family matter. But I agree. I could hear, over the line what was going on. And I agree with Commissioner Hagan that, it's time that we really start looking at these things that we do that should and could be run as businesses. We also need to be cognizant that we have depreciating assets that are going to need service and repair and expansion, and we got to make sure that we generate enough revenues to offset that when those times come. So I appreciate your good work. I look forward to moving this forward, and thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done with board discussion. Do you need further direction from us? Do you think you have it all? I guess you can go through the
Commissioners, I think we have a
comments.
handle on the pieces of information that you need back. I think bringing back kind of what is causing the cost of growth to happen in the operations side. I think a better understanding will be bringing back to you information and keep you informed about the master plan. And then what comes out of the master plan is the assessment of what the capacity fees could look like, what it's costing, what are the policies for inside, outside the urban service area, what are the policies the options that we might consider for septic tank connections, what are the next projects that we might be looking at. So I think we've got a handle on what pieces of information you'd like to see back.
Okay, very good. And I know, if any of us have further questions or want to add something, your door is always open. You can call and ask. So, Mr. Merrill, is there anything further? We're done?
Nope, that's all we had.
Okay, thank you all very
Thank
much.
you, Commissioners.
Have a great day. We're adjourned.
That was easy.
Painless.